know that you think you're the coolest one in town, but to me you'll be much cooler when you're 6 feet underground. Some of us are crazy, some are smart and brave. Well, it doesn't really matter, we all end up in the grave. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. I'm saying all my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead.
Well, hello, breathers.
And welcome.
My name's Shannon Butler.
I'm always Sue Teresi.
Welcome to another fabulous episode of
All My Favorite People Are Dead. Yeah,
Toast.
Gone. Not forgotten.
Not forgotten. Not forgotten by us, anyway.
Not breathing either.
Not breathing. You guys are breathing, though.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If not, they're not listening.
Exactly.
Unless they played this in the cemetery, which could be. We could have that done, actually, piped in.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Wouldn't that be good? Like on a day where the cemetery's quiet, we can have like speakers and let them listen.
I don't know if they'd enjoy it, though.
Well, maybe. They won't complain.
They won't. That's
because a dead man tell no tale. You're tired of hearing me say that.
No, you go ahead. It's all good.
That's gonna be my thing. Yeah,
you gotta put some energy behind it, though. Right?
Dead men tell no tales.
That's better. Much better. Okay,
with
good.
Feeling.
With feeling. So here we are, and it's Black History Month, right?
It is. It is February, yes.
And I would feel remiss if I didn't tell some sort of interesting story concerning an interesting individual who's dead, of course. But recently at work, a colleague of mine had found a article of a guy who was living here in Poughkeepsie and was like 107 years old, and he had been enslaved. And I was like, "Oh, this sounds interesting."
Wow!
So I took his name and I did some deep diving to find out more about this guy.
Okay.
Like I did a lot of deep diving, and
right.
It's a fascinating story, I think. And nobody knows who he is. This is one that you're not going to know who he is.
Okay.
Nobody's going to know.
Okay, we're going to learn.
He has been forgotten by time.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to bring him back.
We're going to bring him back right now because I think that his story is interesting. And I think he should be remembered.
And worth telling.
It's definitely worth telling.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell it today. So anyway, imagine that you have lived through an entire century.
I sometimes feel like I have.
I mean, the past 2 years have felt like...
Yeah, the whole pandemic has been like one big blurb.
It's a lot. We've all aged like 10 years at least. But, for real, like 100 years. And then some. Not only did you make it through a century, but you made it through almost another decade.
But think about everything you've seen change.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what I've seen in my lifetime.
You witnessed the birth of your country, for better or worse.
Yeah.
The enslavement of your people, right?
Oh.
Gaining your freedom and fighting in a war to assure the freedom of others, right?
Okay.
You've outlived several presidents. You've watched as mankind moved from horses to steamboats and from trains to automobiles. Like, just picture that in your head for a second. It's like...
Must have been amazing, though.
Holy crap,
to see the advancements.
You've watched the transition from dimly lit candles to, bright electric light. Like, all within your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And you even... You saw some of the most important events of the 19th century and beyond. So, Levi P. Childs claimed to have gone through all of it. And not everyone could bring themselves to believe his tales. So,
all right.
Let's talk.
I believe.
I believe him. Though there was some discrepancies, but we're going to get into it.
Okay, most of it, I'm sure.
Levi P. Childs had been telling newspaper reporters the same stories for years. And he never altered these stories. Though some facts did seem to get lost as he got older, which, hey, that happens.
Mine.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of forget details as years go on. Yeah.
Stop me if you've heard this.
Right, especially if you're like 80, 90 years old. Sometimes your facts get a little,
Fuzzy.
He claimed to be born on March 4th, 1798, at Ellicott's Mills just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, and that his parents had belonged to Colonel John Ellicott long before he was born. So that's a lot to wrap your brain around. You're born into slavery. Your parents were slaves a long time, right, before you had even come into the picture. Now, Mr. Childs was asked how it was he knew the exact date of his birth, which is pretty rare for enslaved people.
Right, no birth certificates, no documentation,
they don't know.
Home births. Yeah.
They just kind of have a rough estimate, but
yeah.
he knew. And he said that it was because he saw the ledger that was kept by the last person who had enslaved him. And in that ledger, it had his birth date, his health details, his trade, his general look and personality.
So somebody did write it down.
So basically his life story, only it was written by the people who saw him as property. So it's almost like you've got this, it's almost like you're
pedigree dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the breeder
Right.
keeps a thing of,
Like, here's my stock,
Yeah.
That's,
she had 5 puppies.
Yeah,
we sold 2 to neighbors.
Exactly. Here's her disposition.
That's right. That's right.
Here's her medical bills.
She had a rabies shot.
Same thing.
Yeah.
For this man, right?
For a person, right?
So, okay, as a young teenager, he was sent away from home to Virginia to learn how to be a carpenter. This forced apprenticeship kept him away from his mother so long that he decided to run away back home to Maryland just to get back to his mom. He explained that he had been hunted down by bloodhounds, which he was able to fight off with a sickle, which is pretty impressive.
Okay.
Weak with hunger and near death, he somehow made it all the way back, on foot, of course, to Maryland. But he was turned around quickly to go back to Virginia, and this time he had to continue his work with a manacle riveted to his ankle.
Aye.
Right? So they weren't going to let him get back home quite so quickly. At the age of 18, he was purchased for $2,200. Now, that's a hefty sum. And it's because of his new knowledge in carpentry that made him more valuable, right? Because it's like you're looking for a dog, but you're like, oh, this dog is a trained seeing eye dog, so he's got a skill, so he's more valuable. Or this is a trained guard dog.
There you go.
So yeah,
nice. Same
Same thing, but for a person. It's like, what the, Anyway.
I don't get it. I don't know.
So, anyway, he was then sold again. He went up in value. $2,500 he was sold to John P. Clark of Clark County, Mississippi. So now he's even further down south. Childs claimed that his new enslaver was kinder than most others and would allow him to work extra jobs on the side in order to make his own money. So Sundays you'd have off, right?
So he had a real job where he could...
So he would work some on the side and make money that way.
Okay.
And save it.
Okay.
Now, he was lent out for a work detail, on the Craig plantation in Alabama. And this is where he met his first wife, a pretty mulatto girl named Rachel. She bore him 10 children.
Oh.
However, since he was essentially being rented out to this plantation, when the job was done, he had to be returned back to Mississippi. So he had to leave his wife and kids, right?
Oh.
Mr. Clark allowed him, this is how nice this guy was, to visit his wife and kids twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Sadly, when returning to visit his wife and children for Christmas, he arrived to the news that his wife had been whipped to death in a cotton field by a white overseer who was, quote, enamored with her. Childs claimed that he had attempted to locate the murderer and inflict his own justice on him, but was unsuccessful.
He loved her so much he killed her?
Yeah.
I love you to death?
I'm going to whip you to death. And, that's
very romantic.
Oh, Jesus.
Again, I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Childs married another 3 times during his years of enslavement, and all 3 of his wives would die before they could be freed themselves.
Oh.
His second wife, Mary, decided to take her own life by leaping from a wagon of a man who had purchased her. She jumped into a nearby body of water and drowned.
Oh.
Yeah. His third wife, he did not give a name for, was scalded to death in a fit of passion by an angry mistress. Fucking bitch.
She felt so jealous of how she scolded her.
Yeah, she scolded her to death.
All right.
That's, I mean.
All right.
He mentioned a 4th wife that had quote, died naturally. But in the world of harsh enslavement, it's hard to know what they might have considered to be a natural death.
Yeah, there was no natural.
Based on the standards versus our own standards of natural death.
Yeah,
so
right,
it's like, what's a natural death? Starvation? What is it?
Right, malnutrition.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just a little hazy there. Some reports say that he was married at least 7 times and had 23 children. But the only marriage record that I could uncover was actually for his last wife, a free woman named Philora Jackson, who he married in 1866, years after he had finally become free. So that's the only wife that I can find actual records for. After 24 years of working extra days, right, he's working extra jobs on the side, he saved up about $2,000. He purchased his own freedom from Mr. Clark. Yeah, which is pretty impressive.
Sure.
And then
he bought himself.
Yeah, he bought. Yeah, imagine that you're purchasing yourself.
I'm going to buy me.
Yes.
Wow.
I'll take freedom to go. Thank you. He made his way to Washington, D.C., where he worked as a barber in the famous City Hotel known as the Willard Hotel. It's still there today. He saved up more money to purchase the freedom of his children, one by one. Yeah. So a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there to buy his kids.
His family.
And he said that the last child he was able to get for free because the mistress was like, oh, just take it. It's too much. I just can't handle it. Yeah. So freebie. Okay. Anyway, he while employed at the famous Willard Hotel, he had the chance to shave some of the most major political figures of the day. He recalled shaving Andrew Jackson.
Oh, wow.
And remembered him because he, quote, once gave me a $5 gold piece, which was a big deal.
Hefty tip.
Ironically, he claimed to have cut the hair of General Robert E. Lee just before he was leaving Washington to, quote, whip the Yankees. Yeah, okay. How well did that work out for him?
Good luck with that.
Childs was far too old to serve in the Civil War. By the time the Civil War breaks out, he's in his 60s, right? So he's getting up there in age. But he said that he joined up with the 91st New York Volunteers at the age of 68. Cool. Now, he doesn't show up on the muster rolls. I checked the muster rolls of the 91st Regiment. He's not there. But that's not unheard of, especially considering his age, right?
Okay.
Now, he also claimed to have been wounded at the Battle of Gettysburg, but the only problem with that story is the 91st Regiment wasn't at the Battle of Gettysburg.
That could be a problem.
So I don't know. It's really hard to substantiate.
But again, they were volunteers?
Well, yeah, but if he's tied to a regiment, he's going to go where they go. And the 91st Regiment was at the Siege of Port Hudson in Louisiana during the Battle of Gettysburg.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah,
maybe again he got fuzzy or
maybe I don't know. Maybe he got split away from his regiment and it was in Gettysburg with somebody else. I don't know, but it kind of
okay.
It's hard to verify
where he
it.
Was.
With that in mind, he can't apply for a pension because he's not on any muster rolls, and so he never got a vet's pension, a soldier's pension after that.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that you would lie about serving in the Civil War. Maybe some people might have, but yeah, it seems a little weird. But I don't know. Anyway, after the war, he worked as a barber and had shops in Pittsfield and Springfield, Massachusetts. That's where actually he married his wife in Pittsfield. Then he moved up to Albany, New York. He had a shop up there before heading to Syracuse in 1888. He had another shop up there, and then finally he's going all over the place. Then he relocated to Kingston, New York, sometime around 1890, where he operated a barber shop on North Front Street in Kingston. Now, finally, in May of 1901, at the age of 103, he came to Poughkeepsie with the notion that the Queen City would offer more opportunity than the others had. It didn't. Surprise, surprise. Though it did
for me.
Oh, good. All right. Say, hey, Poughkeepsie works for some people, not for others. Yeah. So anyway, he had a barbershop on North Clinton Street.
I know where that is.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Actually, it was apparently like on North Clinton and Cottage, like on the corner there. Okay. Yeah. He had a hard time attracting customers since
he was 101. No one wanted to give him a scissor.
Well, actually, he said, quote, "We let colored men come in here, and the white men won't come on that account." Oh. And then he went on to prophesize. This is interesting. He says, "It's the color line that keeps my race so poor, And it's a problem that the American people will need years to solve. And shit, we're still working on it. You know?
The fact that he was over 100 and had a sharp instrument and probably shaky hands, that was okay.
I mean...
I wouldn't go, just for that.
I don't know how shaky his hands were. Maybe
he was 101?
I don't know.
I would not give sharp tools to any centenarian. That's just me.
Okay.
I'm funny
enough.
that way.
Fair
so
enough.
The fact that he could still operate, apparently that wasn't a problem. The color thing was a problem.
I mean, hey.
Okay.
I
All right. Would you let a 100-year-old guy come at your throat with a razor?
No.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
That's just me.
No, it's a valid point. It's a
funny that way.
valid point, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. On February 18th, 1905, he ended up signing into the almshouse here in Poughkeepsie.
Okay.
The clerk who took down his information in the ledger clearly did not believe the tale that Mr. Childs had to tell. Oh. And he wrote down in the remarks, there's a little remarks section at the bottom of the form, he wrote down, this man is a fraud. That's what he wrote in the remarks. This man is a fraud.
Down, I think the exact terminology was liar, liar, pants on fire.
Yeah, it's some, yeah.
Wow.
This man
who was he to judge the guy?
Well, let me tell you, if you ever come over to my office sometime and read through the ledger, that we have this big, thick ledger of the almshouse of Poughkeepsie, the original ledger, and the guy, whoever was signing in these people was a real dick. Like, he was writing terrible, terrible things. I'm like, who is this asshole?
Who are you to sit here on
passing judgment?
Yeah, judge everybody.
He's like, this woman is clearly a prostitute. This is a degenerate. This person has a bad lifestyle. You know, he's writing all like, how the fuck would you know, buddy? I really would like to do it.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
we do that guy.
Yeah, well, I should find out who he was.
Find out who that guy was, and let's talk about him
who
now.
Who the fuck are you, bud?
Yeah, that's right. Well, clearly you're a jerk.
Well, what's interesting is after 60 years after he saw his life story written down by a white man in a slave ledger, here was another white man writing down in a poorhouse ledger that he was faking his life story.
Wow.
You know, it's just the irony of it all, you know?
Terrible.
So anyway, his wife appears to have gone back to Kingston, his last wife.
The fourth wife?
Yeah,
With all 25 children?
Yeah, something like that. She died in 1906 in the home of her grandchild. Mr. Childs lived out his days in the almshouse until the morning of April 1st, 1907, when he was found dead in his bed at the age of 109. Now, I was just curious. I'm like, where did they bury this guy? You know, I was curious. So I did some research, contacted my buddies over at the Poughkeepsie Rural Cemetery.
Yep.
And we did some digging in the files, and sure enough, he's there.
You're the digging in the file, not digging
not
in
the actual
plots.
Okay,
no.
no.
Just check it.
So he's buried in the old singles section, which is basically anyone who came from the poorhouse or the Hudson River State Hospital for the Insane. They would be given these single plots, these little, and they would just bury them there. So
Potter's Field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's no headstone for him.
Oh, but he's there.
He's there.
So why is his story dubious? Other than the jerk at the ledger, why could this not have happened? Why is his life story?
Well, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying that I had a hard time finding the records of the military service.
Okay,
like that I couldn't find.
But everything else,
is yeah.
Poor guy.
I know.
107?
Yeah.
And what year?
He was 109.
109
when he died in 1907.
In 07.
Yeah.
But he was 109 then.
Born in 1798, died in 1907.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
I don't know. I'm not saying he made this shit up. I mean, the idea of your wife being, whipped to death in a cornfield,
sure,
you're not gonna, or a cotton field, you're not gonna make that shit up.
No, no, I don't think any of you.
Yeah, no.
So that's his life story.
Being chased by hounds, from Virginia to Maryland.
You hear stories like this,
yeah,
that have been passed down in families.
I don't think he's faking it.
I don't either.
I don't think it's fair for the guy signing him into the almshouse to think it was faking it.
That guy sounded like that. You know what? That guy's a jerk.
Yeah, he is for sure.
Jeez.
So whoever you guy,
we're gonna find you.
Yeah, and make fun of you on our podcast.
That's right. That's
no.
I think we're gonna dig that guy out.
The life of Levi P. Childs is fascinating, and I think that
sad and tragic. And
it should be remembered.
Absolutely.
And I think that he went through a lot. overcame a lot. But I just found it fascinating that, here he is as a young man trying to buy his freedom, and he's looking in this ledger that has all of his details laid out. About him. And then, 60 years later, he's 100 and whatever, and he's in the poorhouse, and this guy's filling out another ledger.
All about me.
And it's just like,
everybody knows about me, right?
Yeah.
You know more about me than I know about myself, right?
And this guy writes, this guy's a fraud.
Good.
It's like,
good.
What the fuck? So anyway.
Well, you judge me.
Yeah, so that's Levi P.
Story.
Childs. Yeah.
Fascinating.
So we're he's now on my list of favorite people who are dead. And I'd really like to find out a way if I can find a way to get a grant or something to get a plaque for the spot where he is, in the cemetery,
How do you do it?
I don't know. I got to look into it.
Okay.
But I think we should, because
yes, absolutely.
He's an important dude.
It's a life worth remembering.
I think
for
so.
somebody to overcome and to live so long and to see so much.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about a life. I mean, look, I'm not 100, I'm 99 and a half. But I know what I've seen, when I talk to students, and I'm like, nah, we didn't have streaming services. I didn't have a phone in my back pocket when I was 8.
I didn't either.
When you think of things, and we had a microwave, and it was like the size of the moon, and and we had encyclopedias delivered to the house, or things like that. And then I talked to my mom, and she, I know, you saw 2 movies for a nickel, and we're in the trolley car, and the milkman.
I just spent $31 on popcorn and snacks the other night.
Right, true that. So it's so funny how quickly things happen in such a short period of time. Mm-hmm. That it's amazing that to live that long, to for God to allow you to live over a century and see all the changes is miraculous,
for sure.
I tell that to the students. I say, write things down now about having to be on Zoom and having to, not know what we're dealing with. I say, because one day your grandkids are going to say, what happened during the pandemic? Oh, well, that's when, cows started to vote, or, whatever. And, you're going to, I tell them, write it down. I said, because people that come after us who didn't live through it won't remember pre-pandemic state.
Right.
I said, so, write it down, because you're living through, we're all living through different times.
Sure.
And every generation has its trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
But also it's good stuff. And
there's some good times. It's been a while.
I've seen a lot of good.
It's been a while.
I've seen, countries develop, and, diseases get eradicated, and
right.
I've seen some good things. Then I've seen, see some things like, 9/11. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So every generation has its trials and tribulations and its good stuff.
For sure.
On that note, I'm going to do an unsung hero.
An unsung hero?
Yes, this is a person who doesn't get much notoriety that he should have.
Okay.
Wesley Branch Rickey, born December 20th, 1881, died December 9th, 1965, was an American baseball player and a sports executive. Branch Rickey was instrumental in breaking the major league's color barrier by signing black player Jackie Robinson.
That name I know.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, for real.
He also created the framework for the modern minor league farm system, encouraged major leagues to add new teams throughout his involvement in the proposed Continental League, and introduced the batting helmet. Yes, the batting helmet.
That's important.
You would think.
For real.
He was posthumously elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1967.
Oh, they just missed him.
Branch Rickey was born in Portsmouth, Ohio, the son of Jacob Frank Rickey and Emily Nee Brown Rickey. He was the uncle of Beth Rickey, a Louisiana political activist. Okay. He graduated from Valley High School in Lucasville, Ohio in 1899, was a catcher on the baseball team at Ohio Wesleyan University, where he got his BA, and he was a member of Delta Tau Delta Frat.
Okay.
He was a master mason in the Tuscan Lodge number 240 in St. Louis. Then he arrived in Brooklyn, and he joined the Montauk Masonic League in Brooklyn.
Okay.
He played both football and baseball professionally.
Whoa.
He played in baseball's minor and major leagues. In 1902, Rickey played professional football for the Shelby Blues of the Ohio League, the direct predecessor to the modern NFL, the National Football League.
Okay.
Yep. Rickey, however, stated his inspiration for bringing Jackie Robinson into baseball was the ill treatment he saw that was received by his black catcher friend Charles Thomas on the Ohio Wesleyan baseball team, where Rickey was coaching in 03 and 04, and the gentlemanly way Thomas handled it. When Rickey signed Robinson, Charles Thomas's story was made known in the papers. All right. So he saw this guy mistreated, and the way the guy handled it, and that left a big impression on him. Mm-hmm. Now, in 1903, Rickey signed the contract with the Hottentots of the Class B Central League, making his professional debut on June 20th. Rickey was assigned to the Lamar's Blackbirds of the Class D Iowa South Dakota League. Now, during this period, he also spent 2 seasons, 1904 and 5, coaching baseball, basketball, and football at the Allegheny College in Pennsylvania, where he also served as athletic director and instructor of Shakespeare, English, and freshman history.
Wow.
Well-rounded, busy man.
Busy guy, for real.
Branch Rickey debuted in the major leagues with the St. Louis Browns in 1905. He was sold to the New York Highlanders in 1907. He could neither hit nor field while with the club, and his batting average dropped below 200. One opposing team stole 13 bases in one game while Rickey was behind the plate.
Oh, no.
Which was, an American League record until 1911.
Oh, no, it sounds terrible.
Rickey also injured his throwing arm and retired as a player the following season.
Poor guy.
I know. He attended the University of Michigan, where he got his LLB. While at Michigan, he applied for a job as Michigan's baseball coach.
Okay.
Branch Rickey served as an officer in the U.S. Army in France during World War I. He commanded a chemical training unit that included Ty Cobb and Christy Matheson.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Branch served in the 1st Gas Regiment during the war and spent over 4 months as a member of the Chemical Welfare Service.
That sounds like a good way to end up with cancer or some shit like that.
You're dealing with the gases and the...
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. So when Rickey's good friend, Brooklyn Dodgers general manager Larry McPhail, enlisted in the Army to serve in World War II after the 42 season, the Dodgers then hired Rickey to replace him as president and general manager, ending a tenure of over 2 decades with the Cardinals. In 1945, the Dodger ownership reorganized, and Rickey acquired 25% of Dodger stock, became an equal partner with the other 3 owners. He continued to innovate in his time with Brooklyn. He was responsible for the first full-time spring training facility in Vero Beach, Florida, and he encouraged the use of now complacent tools, such as things like, batting cages, pitching machines, batting helmets. He also pioneered the use of statistical analysis in baseball, what is now known as sabermetrics. Okay. And he hired a statistician, Alan Roth, as a full-time analyst for the Dodgers in 47. After viewing Roth's evidence, Rickey promoted the idea that on-base percentage was a more important hitting stat than batting averages. While working under Rickey, Roth was also the first person to provide statistical evidence that platoon effects were real and quantifiable.
Okay.
But Rickey's most memorable act with the Dodgers involved the signing of Jackie Robinson, thus breaking baseball's color barrier, which had been an unwritten rule since the 1880s. The policy continued under a succession of baseball leaders, including Landis, who was openly opposed to integrating Major League Baseball for what he regarded as quote-unquote legitimate reasons. Yeah, I'll bet.
Okay.
Sure. Landis died in 44, and Rickey had already set the process in motion, having sought and gained approval from the Dodgers Board of Directors in 43, and they began to search for the quote-unquote right man to break the barrier.
Okay.
In early 45, Rickey was anticipating the integration of black players into Major League Baseball. Rickey, along with Gus Greenlee, who was the owner of the original Pittsburgh Crawfords, created the USL, the United States League, as a method to scout black players specifically to break the color line. It's unclear if the league actually played in 45 or if it was only used as a pretense for integration. But around this time, Rickey held tryouts of black players under the cover story of forming a new team in the USL called the Brooklyn Brown Dodgers. The Dodgers were in fact looking for the right man at this point to break the color line. On August 28 of 45, Rickey signed Jackie Robinson, who never played in the USL, to a minor league contract. Now, Robinson had been playing in the Negro Leagues for the Kansas City Monarchs. On October 23, 1945, it was announced that Robinson would join the Montreal Royals, the Dodgers International League affiliate, for the 46th season. He would end up as the league's batting champion and led the Royals to a dominant league championship. there was no statute officially banning blacks from baseball, only a universally recognized unwritten rule, which no club owner was ever prepared to break, that was perpetuated over and over again by culturally enriching racism and a desire by club owners to be perceived as representing the values and beliefs of everyday American white guys.
Culturally, racism?
Yeah, well, no, we're all fair, but, there's no rule, but you can't play with us.
That's messed up.
The service of black Americans in the Second World War and the celebrated pre-war achievements of black athletes in American sports like Joe Louis in boxing and Jesse Owens in track helped pave the way for a cultural shift now necessary to break the barrier in baseball. Rickey knew that Robinson would face racism and discrimination. Rickey made it very clear in their momentous first meeting that he anticipated wide-scale resistance both inside and outside baseball to the opening of its doors to black players. But as predicted by Rickey right from the start, Robinson faced obstacles among his teammates and other teams' players. And no matter how harsh the white people were toward Robinson, he would never retaliate. Robinson agreed with Rickey not to lose his temper and jeopardize the chances of all the blacks who would follow him if he could help break down the barriers. Okay? Ken Burns' documentary Baseball, he recounts that Rickey's determination to desegregate Major League Baseball was born out of a combination of idealism and astute business senses. The idealism was at least particularly rooted in an incident involving a team for which Rickey worked on earlier. Like I said before, he was managing at Ohio Wesleyan University, and this black player, Charles Thomas, was extremely upset at being refused an accommodation because of his race.
Yeah.
Where they were staying, at the hotel, right?
For real.
So though an infuriated Rickey managed to get him into the hotel for the night, he never forgot the incident. And he was later quoted as saying, "I may not be able to do something about racism in every field, but I sure as hell can do something about it in baseball." And amid much fanfare, Jackie Robinson debuted and turned out to be a success. Robinson's first baseball Rookie of the Year. And he was often jeered by opposing baseball players, managers, fans. He became extremely popular with the American public. Okay. His success became the crowning achievement of Rickey's illustrious career. His Dodgers would make the World Series later that year. Although they lost in 7 games to the New York Yankees, Rickey's vision and action had set the stage for the Dodgers to be contenders for decades to come. And it opened the door for other leaders like Larry Doby of the Cleveland Indians, who integrated into the American League in 47 as well.
Okay.
From 45 to 50, Rickey was one of the forerunners of the Dodgers, each with 1/4 of the franchise. Rickey finally sold his portion for $1.5 immediately upon leaving the Dodgers. He was offered the position of executive vice president and general manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates by the team's new majority owner, John Galbraith. And he joined them in November of 50. But perhaps the most notable innovation during his Pittsburgh tenure came in the 53 season when the Pirates became the first team to permanently adopt batting helmets on both the offense and defense. Yeah, why cover your brain? The helmets resembled the primitive fiberglass miner's cap, but this was a mandate of Rickey, who also owned stock in the company and produced the helmets.
That's smart.
Under Rickey's orders, all Pirate players had to wear the helmets both at bat and on the field. The helmets became a permanent feature for all Pirate hitters, but within a few weeks the team began to abandon their use of helmets in defense, and partially because of their awkward, heavy feel.
I think you're about to get a package.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Once the Pirates discarded the helmets on the defense, the trend disappeared, and later on health problems forced Rickey to retire. Charge!
There's your package.
Wow, that's my package from... Yeah, there you go.
FedEx. Okay.
Boy, well, that was pretty appropriate.
Is that your baseball helmet?
It's like a baseball helmet, and
right.
Rickey retired at 55. Go Mets. A public speaker in his later years, on November 13, 1965, Rickey collapsed in the middle of a speech in Columbia, Missouri, as he was being elected to the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay.
He had told the story of physical courage and was about to relate an illustration from the Bible. He says, "Now I'm going to tell you a story from the Bible about spiritual courage, But he couldn't continue. He collapsed. He never spoke again. He faltered. He fell back on his seat, slipped to the floor, never regained consciousness.
Oh, shit.
His brain was damaged. His breathing stopped momentarily. Though his heart picked up its rhythms. But over the next 26 days, hospitalized in a coma, there was little change.
What happened?
He died of 10 p.m. on December 9th. He died of a heart failure at Boone County Memorial in Columbia, Missouri.
Oh.
11 days before his 84th birthday.
So it was a heart attack.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was interred at Rush Township Burial Park in Rushton, Ohio, near his parents and his widow, who died in 71, and 3 of his children, including Branch Jr., also rest.
Huh.
His grave overlooks the valley about 3 miles from his boyhood home in Stocksdale, Ohio.
Huh.
So now, according to historian Harold Seymour, Branch Rickey stands forth as professional baseball's counterpart of the oldest stereotype of American folklore, that shrewd, hard-working, God-fearing Yankee trader. He was also one of baseball's genuine innovators, an administrator who made a lasting imprint on the industry. His seeming contradictions between profession and practice, together with his skill and his these are a lot of big words that I can't pronounce.
Oh, dear.
Circumlocation caused many to regard Rickey as a hypocritical mountebank. Yet even his detractors acknowledge Rickey's industrious organizing genius, an unsurpassed ability to judge the potential of raw recruits. He built the Cardinals into a baseball empire that at its peak comprised 32 clubs, 600 or 700 players, and ran an investment of more than $2 million.
Huh.
In addition to his election into the Hall of Fame as a contributor in 1967, in 1997 he was inducted into the St. Louis Walk of Fame. In 2009 he was elected into the College Baseball Hall of Fame.
Huh.
January of 2014, the Cardinals announced Rickey was among 22 former players and personnel to be inducted into the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame Museum for the inaugural class of 2014. A ballpark in Portsmouth, Ohio, once used by the Portsmouth Explorers, a charter member of his team, the Frontier League, is named in Rickey's honor. The Branch Rickey Arena at Ohio Wesleyan University is also named for him, and a state highway, Highway 23 in Ohio, running north from the Franklin County border to the city of Delaware, has also been named the Branch Rickey Memorial Highway.
Huh.
Look, Jackie was Jackie. Okay, let's get serious. But there were many other players that were better players than Jackie Robinson. He picked Jackie Robinson because Jackie was a man that knew how to handle it. He wasn't going to lose his cool.
Right.
He knew what he was up against, and he knew what was on the line.
Yeah.
And he had there were players that could have been better than him, but would not have handled it as gentlemanly as he did.
Yeah, he was a real gentleman about it.
You can't picture, look, I mean, I know it's like to be the only Jew in a room, and then if people, start carrying on, how do you maintain your cool in the presence of such blatant hatred?
I couldn't. But I'm a white person.
You and
I wouldn't get in trouble because I'm white.
Yeah, right. But how do you, when they're calling you these awful names.
No, it's terrible.
And they're throwing things and they're carrying on, and they hate you. They literally hate you. They would kill you.
Yeah. The fact that he was able to compose himself in such a way.
And just walk away and be like, nope, okay. He knew, to have that kind of self-control, knowing what was on the line for the future of baseball is, and Branch knew that.
Yeah,
and,
he did. Yeah.
He
knew, had big cojones
you would think to pick anybody,
yeah.
But he really, really changed integration in baseball. You got to give it to him.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Branch Rickey is an unsung hero. You hear about Jackie Robinson, obviously, which is great, but you don't hear too much about Branch Rickey.
Okay.
Unless you're a big baseball fan, and even then, people don't know about him.
Yeah.
But that's why I thought he was definitely worth talking about.
I dig it. Very cool.
And that's all I got. I have spoken.
You have spoken.
That is all I got.
I think that's all we got for this week, right?
Well,
any other dead people to talk about today? I'm sure there's lots of dead people out there to talk about, but
well, today we'll just talk about these guys.
Just these guys.
Next time we'll talk about other dead guys, because that's how we roll.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, breathers.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for breathing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to listen.
Exactly. And we hope you enjoyed another episode of All My Favorite People Are Dead.
See ya.
Bye.
People love it, and I say it over